Welcome to Insurance Technology Amplified, the podcast where we explore how innovation is transforming the insurance industry. This is the place where technology and expertise come together to empower agents, carriers, and the industry alike. Thank you for tuning in. Now, let's get to the show.
Let's do a quick round robin intros. Jeremy, we're recording. Here's our Momentum Amped podcast. We're excited, happy to have you. You've been a great partner. For all of us to get on and shout from the rooftops about your product, it says a lot about you and what you're building. It's been a pleasure working with you, and you've got a great product, and we're excited to use it ourselves. We're excited to expose it to our customers and to collaborate with you and to partner with you. So I'd love, take a minute, introduce yourself, and we'll go around, the Brady Bunch cube, and everybody will do a quick intro.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I appreciate it. And likewise, we're huge fans of Momentum. We love your API to start with as an integration partner. It's just been super easy to integrate with, to find everything we need. The enthusiasm from your team for our product has been a huge boost for us. So we're great admirers and we really appreciate it. Very quickly, I'm the CEO of Assembly. My background is previously in legal tech. Built case management software for immigration lawyers, sold it, and then started building Assembly to bring similar efficiencies to insurance agents.
Did you ever come across Litify?
Yeah, it definitely rings a bell.
Yeah, some good friends of mine started it, subsequently sold it, but small world. But
nice.
They sold it, so we're not doing any plugs. So Craig is the newest member of the Momentum team. And Craig, please introduce yourself to the audience and to Jeremy.
Yeah, Jeremy, great to meet you. Craig Kilroy. Have a strong consulting background, doing process implementation, technology implementation, transformation work in Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies. But then was an agency owner with Allstate for 17 years. Grew that agency to be one of the leading agencies in the country, and sold that last year. Now consulting, and very happy to be working with Momentum on process design, implementation, metrics, benchmarking, etc.
Great to meet you, Craig.
Kiefer, you're up.
Up next, Adam Kiefer, president of Momentum Win. So I'm running our Momentum Rate product, our comparative rating system integrated into the AMS, and the Win network, our wholesale insurance network that sits behind it, essentially offering market access to agents that are members of the platform. And so, been in InsurTech for a long time. Founded a company and really excited to be over here. So we're excited about the Assembly partnership.
Nice, great to meet you, Adam.
Germanov, you're up.
My turn. Peter Germanov, I guess the CEO of NowCerts, founder. The reason why you guys are all in this mess. I really, enjoy our conversation with Jeremy, and the minute I saw his choice of attire, I decided, we need to bring him into the team. We have the same taste of clothing. One thing that's
and companionship, it looks like, over his right shoulder.
Yeah, the dog. Yeah, we had a meeting yesterday, and it's you had a husky behind him. I brought my dog, but one thing that's a little bit of concern is hopefully you like me and we buy multiple of these. Like true founders, sometimes they wake up in the same shirt. We will edit this. I promise.
I've only like 3 shirts and many of each of them. Just cuts down decision making.
Exactly. Yeah. So very excited to have Jeremy here. It is one thing that Assembly provides, and we'll probably. This is not. By the way, this podcast is not about Assembly. We were excited to have him as a guest, but it is. I love what their product does, and it has been kind of a big hole in our own platform's offering. So it plugs a need that a lot of our agents have been asking for, and I'm really excited to have that integrated and improve the experience of all of our agents. So
That's great. Yeah, we're excited. We're excited to offer that to agents.
And just being that we have some listeners, I'll just round it out. It's Mike Libor here. I'm the president of Momentum AMP. And like I said, Jeremy, happy to have you as part of this conversation. So, we're all insurance geeks. We, on a day-to-day basis, we really get deep into the agent technology. And so even though it's not necessarily about Assembly, Jeremy, why don't you take a minute, please, and just tell us what you do. You said you've locked yourself in a room for well over a year building a product. We've seen it. We see a lot of stuff. We find it to be something that's very appealing and viable, and we would love to give you the opportunity to use our platform and to socialize it a bit. Why don't you tell us, I guess, the proverbial, what was the problem statement that had you decide, okay, I'm going to dedicate a year of my life to this, and what do you do, and how's the journey so far?
Yeah. So I actually recognized the problem in the legal space first. And I recognized it when I was immigrating to the US. I just married my wife. She's a US citizen. That's not why I married her, but a perk was I got to get my green card. And so I went to meet with an immigration lawyer, and he gave me like 10 pieces of paper with questions on them for me and 10 pieces of paper for my wife. And we took them home and we had to write out just like an enormous amount of information onto these pieces of paper, bring it back to him, and then he populated onto up to, I think, like 100 pages of US government immigration forms. And I recognize this is obviously a major problem and the perfect problem for tech to solve. So we started building software that streamlined the process of intaking information from immigrants and then helping immigration lawyers process that immigration information into green card and other visa applications. And we built it in such a way that gave us a big leg up over the many incumbents in this space at that time, grew very quickly, sold it after 7 years back in 2022. I then retired, played video games for 2 weeks, got bored, and started thinking about what I was going to build next. And we had such success solving that pain point where a professional needs to collect a lot of information that's in the minds of their clients and then populate it onto tons of paperwork. I wanted to see if I could recognize that pain point in a different sector. And I started searching. I thought insurance might be right. I started off in actually Canadian life insurance, poking around because I have friends that are life insurance agents in Canada. Didn't work because they fill out all the information is populated into portals. Then I went into insurance on the personal side in the US, same problem. It's all carrier portals, very difficult to streamline that. And then I stumbled across Accords, and it was really like a hallelujah moment. Like in looking at these Accords, I recognized exactly what we had worked with US immigration forms. And I suspected very strongly that we could introduce efficiencies here. Looked around, saw there were other players in the market. Some of them looked really good, some of them less good. But the architecture there, and I can dive into this deeper later on, the architecture there was very similar to the incumbents in the previous space. Where you didn't get a true source of truth so that all of your data is exactly where you want it to be. And it's filling out all of the forms simultaneously at the same time. And so I felt like there was both a pain point there and an opportunity for me to build a better product that really differentiates itself from everything else already on the market. That's when I went into my year of solitude, so to speak, building out the product. It took me about exactly 1 year. And what I built as an MVP, we're further along now, but basically an intake that you can add Accords and supplements to, And as you add the accords and supplements, the intake dynamically adapts to ask all the questions necessary for those accords and supplements. No duplicate questions. If a question is asked multiple times across the many forms, it will be asked once, and all of your data will sync seamlessly to all of the forms. And I suspected there'd be product market fit. I had no idea. I find you never really know until you ask people to put their credit cards down. I ran a small Facebook ads campaign, got someone to schedule a demo, did the demo, and he told me that the product wasn't useful and he was not interested in subscribing. It was a little crushing. Thought about pulling it offline, reworking it, but over that weekend, two guys scheduled a demo for Monday. So I was like, I'll just do this demo on Monday, get through it, then pull it offline. And in that demo, these guys got it. Like I could see it in their eyes. They were like, yes, this is exactly the solution to the problem that we have. Next 9 demos, I was able to close quickly. And then I brought on a domain expert, Joe, who comes from Chubb, with several years at different carriers and agencies to lead growth. And we've been growing pretty fast ever since.
You've got
So
to be the first agent to ever see Accords and say hallelujah. Like that's got to be the first time anyone's ever.
Nice.
It takes a non-agent. I hadn't been tortured through them. Now, after a year of building Accord intakes, I no longer say hallelujah.
So Jeremy, the first question I have for you is, and be honest, at some point in the past month, did you say to your wife, I could have bought a gold card for $5 million and didn't have to marry you? Like,
No, she's been extraordinarily supportive ever since I told her I was quitting my law firm job to do my last startup. She supported me the whole way.
yeah, we could have a joint therapy. We could have a joint therapy. I guess all of us here, right? I guess this is like a support group for like at-risk entrepreneurs who decided to go into the insurance space. I think we're all battered. I guess that's, Peter, that's what we should make the podcast. We should change the whole thing. It shouldn't be amped. It shouldn't be hackathon. It should be like retail insurance therapy.
There's a need for that. A growing need for that, so not a bad idea, Michael.
Well,
And then we could have the other podcast, which is the wives just complaining about what we bring home.
a new series on Netflix, the wives of insurance professionals. But by the way, we all need exactly. Yeah. But by definition, we need therapy. Just who gets involved in insurance? Like I think I told you the story one day before I did get involved. If somebody told me, I would tell you crazy, no way, no chance on earth. But I did the next day, jump, head first into the insurance industry.
Peter, Craig, Adam, if Jeremy would have come to us a year ago and said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Do you think this is a good idea or not? Like, what would you have told him this is a good idea? Honestly,
I would have dissuaded him from doing it as I always do.
Yeah, I would have told you you're crazy. What about you, Craig?
We would try, but Jeremy seems very committed. I don't think he would have listened to us.
See, the one thing I would have been like, well, he's an immigrant, and if you guys noticed, I think the immigrants outnumber here the native born. So there is some grit there where you're going against some big guys, no names mentioning, with a lot of deep pockets, but you can probably do it.
So Jeremy, that's why I had to go into my year to build it before I asked anyone, because it's so easy to get false positives and false negatives. Like on the one hand, there are people who whatever you tell them are going to say, that's amazing, go for it, until you actually ask them to put their credit card down. And then on the other hand, sometimes you have to actually see it to appreciate the value.
There's the value of the outsider is underestimated because you weren't jaded by seeing what was in the market and the stuff, and then just to try to make small improvements. You started with, I have no idea how this is working in the insurance industry, but there seems to be a need to do something. And starting with a clean slate, you're able to kind of design a better mousetrap, the proverbial mousetrap.
I'm going to remember that because Jeremy, normally, like when I'm the outsider coming in, Peter's like, your opinion doesn't have any weight because you don't know anything about the agent. But you value you're an outsider. There's value. So again, this is part of our therapy.
But he brought in an insider. He brought in an insider right away, right? Like you got Joe involved and understands some of the intricacies of the industry, right? Like I think there's a balance there that needs to be walked.
Agreed. But the truth is, I didn't know about supplements when I started building the product, and if I knew about them, I think I would have run for the hills. So being an outsider with that, like with respect to that, was definitely helpful.
So I have
Oh, sorry, Peter.
I was gonna say kind of like a related question. Currently, do you use do you employ any AI in your platform?
Yes. Yeah. We actually just released yesterday AI-powered loss run and deck page extraction. So as you're working through an Accord form, you can upload your deck pages and your loss runs, and it'll import everything into the Accord form. And that's like the first sparkle of AI into Assembly. I want that to be a track, like a one developer just focused exclusively on introducing AI, whether in the user experience or on the admin side, like in terms of adding all of these supplements. There are a lot of opportunities for us to streamline our own processes using AI. But the solutions are almost limitless, and I think it's useful to have someone who's just thinking about it all the time, just focused on thinking about what are we doing that we could, or what are our users doing that could be replaced by AI. What about you guys? How have you been thinking about AI?
Oh,
Craig, you want to take a stab at it?
Yeah, we, Jeremy, have really kind of been looking at the entire platform and rethinking exactly what we do from a process-based perspective with AI baked into that. So, taking a very process-oriented approach, a very practical approach, a very comprehensive approach. So looking at the totality of agency operations and documenting processes across the board, and then looking to see where AI fits best at this point in time. And I would say also projecting out, looking at what the potential for AI will be, kind of reading the tea leaves and looking to see what's coming in terms of things like, can I give, I'm not going to give anything away here, but...
you could give away whatever you want, whatever we're working on. We publish and socialize, and if somebody wants to try to knock us off, God bless them.
Fair enough. So things like large action models that can perform activity on the desktop, that are not there yet, really, but are emergent. And we see the ability to automate repetitive administrative tasks, or to give the agent the option as to whether they want those automated. That would be a kind of projecting out kind of thing. But right now we're looking at what's available and looking to see where that fits process by process by process.
Yeah, makes sense. That resonates with me, sort of skating where the puck is going, to use, I think that might be a Canadian expression. But with AI, it's going to be so much better in a year from now. Solutions that might work only 40% of the time today will work 80% of the time in a year.
Yeah.
So I think it's wise to be in a position where you can benefit from that when it's ready.
Yeah. We're very grounded, but we're architecting for the potential, which is not too far away.
Right.
Jeremy, are you familiar with the concept of like a node, like a custom node in some of these AI workflow platforms? Just to elaborate a little bit. So, like Zapier, and then there's
N8N.
N8N, and we're working with which, in addition to traditional automations, allows you to employ agents, AI agents. But so we can turn, for example, our entire platform into a custom node. So anybody then can go in and call our API in essence, and then generate whatever it is that we do. So what I'm suggesting is you should look into that and making Assembly a custom node for a lot of these platforms, and then we can agents like AI agents can kind of call the custom node and generate those PDFs and generate a whole submission.
Oh, that's fascinating. So it's essentially like having an open API or integration to Zapier, except
It's
specifically for agents.
so it's using your API, but it's
Yeah.
making it easier for agents, AI agents. So
Right.
it's unfortunate. So basically, the ultimate goal is currently you make the life of agents easier to do submissions.
Yeah.
But if we want to take the human agent out of it and have an AI agent do it, making it a custom node will enable you to embed this into larger workflows.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And do you think there's utility to that today, or is this a skate where the puck is going strategy?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think as you think about how we're currently integrating with you via, let's say, an API, and the way that we're trying to position ourselves as it pertains to APIs or AI is that we think we have a distinct advantage over most in that being the AMS or being the platform, we have an embedded distribution audience that really relies on us and our tech to manage their day. And we want to be the trademark, we want to be the Zapier of the commercial insurance industry. We want to be the N8N. We want to be the central hub where guys like you know that, if I want to get access to 2,000 agents, let me connect my AI for supplementals and documents to the Momentum AMP, and you're making our distribution and your product accessible to our distribution. So that's
Right.
kind of how we're thinking about it. And short term, like our integration with you, we're making it available. And then as you break down your processes into micro AI agentic experiences or the entire node, it's not that far off, and we're
Right.
building for it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you may not get 1,000 clients tomorrow, but given the explosion in popularity of those agentic systems, one day you'll wake up, and if you're the only node on these popular platforms, then you may get 1,000 people that day just plugging into your platform that way.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, when I was building in legal tech, the largest case management software solution in that space bills itself, or at least used to bill itself, as the OS for lawyers. So basically the platform on which all other products are built. And unlike their competitors, they invested very heavily into partnerships, making it easy to develop on top of them, making sure that their integration partners were happy. And as I entered this space, I immediately recognized you guys as that in InsurTech, whereas with some of the other AMSs, it can be very difficult to integrate. You guys have open API, you're super responsive. So I've already recognized you guys as that in the market pre-agentic revolution. And it seems consistent with that strategy and brilliant to position yourselves for that.
So I don't know if you noticed, we all smirked when you said OS, because it is one thing we're trying to build without using the word, but Craig is the Mr. OS, and then
why don't you want to
exactly
use the
what we're
word?
trying to build.
I'm working on it, Peter. Working on it.
We just rebranded to AMP, so I was told we're not rebranding to Agency OS anytime soon. Without the budget for that. So
you don't want to use it within your. Okay.
Right. Yeah, because I keep referring to it as we want to be the Agency OS, like an open system. Use whatever components you want, but plug into us exactly what you described. So
right. Yeah, and I think that's a winning strategy. And in legal, it definitely was, because the software company, my company was bought by their competitor, and both are fantastic companies. But this the OS for legal was a rocket ship.
Yeah. But I remember this from one of my favorite teachers, who basically said, the art in literature is to say something without saying it. So it's kind of like we're the OS without ever mentioning the word OS, pounding our chest of trying to build the OS.
But
But you could say it without including it in, without a rebrand. You could,
Right,
you
right,
could,
right.
yeah,
So we are availing ourselves of the terminology.
right.
Let me tell you what the alternative is something Michael came up with. It's called the hub.
Not the alternative. It's not the alternative.
So we play this bingo thing when in meetings somebody says hub, we all have to say hub. I kind of hate that term. But
I wonder what agents, what insurance agents, not AI agents, would recognize more readily. Like what would resonate with them, OS or hub or platform.
yeah.
We shall see.
It really gets nuanced in terms of like how we're applying the terminology and where, so, to me, the hub is a place and a destination where agents can come on one side, right? The demand, and then insurtechs or third-party providers or technologists can come connect to us on the supply side, and like we're the place where supply meets demand. And a big challenge for us as an AMS is that if you're not in the market for an AMS, you're not switching to Momentum, no matter how awesome we are or how innovative or open. But the hub is a component that, regardless of what AMS you're on, you could come use and connect to access the assemblies and the third-party software that's independent and agnostic of which AMS you're on. And to me, that's more of the hub, where our app store is and our workflows could be subscribed to. That's the hub. The operating system is a little bit more of like literally the components of our operations.
Right.
Here's my problem with the hub. It implies centralization. You know how much I love that, having grown up in a centralized economy. But it also, I like distributed systems, and I think that almost like open versus closed, right? If you have to go to a central point, it eventually becomes some kind of a bottleneck, right? Or somebody's controlling something, and that could end up being bad for your business. But platform is more like distributed. So in that same, explanation, Michael, they don't have to go to the hub to get from the radar to the AI tool, right? Nothing to do with the AMS. So we're getting a little bit.
I mean, listen, we're talking. So bottom line, I'm making a note. I should not call it the People's Republic of Momentum.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, thinking about what to call things is
Yeah.
what I think tech entrepreneurs do. I think someone said the hardest part about coding is figuring out what to call what to name things.
Yeah, the variables. Yeah. Cool.
This approach, wherever we settle, it allows agents to pick and choose, right? And so it allows them to go at their own pace. So I guess we recognize, we know AI is daunting, can be. It can be perceived as complex. It's rapidly changing. So we want to meet agents where they're at, when they're ready, giving them a kind of measured pathway and approach to adoption.
Right.
So, there's no centralization here. Thank goodness. It's basically allowing them to navigate and assisting them to navigate adopting AI in a very methodical way.
Right.
One important thing to keep in mind, I keep saying this all the time, because as a kind of a software purveyor, I have to check myself. There is the allure of like selling software and features and gadgets, and we kind of, you wake up a few years down the road and you realize that you kind of missed, the big picture. So OS is really have nothing to do with technology. OS is basically how do you run an agency, right? It can be paper and boxes or spreadsheet, right? It doesn't matter what the technology is, but this is how you would run a business, an agency, small agency, just a small business. And then we figure out now what tools do we use, and that's why I'm so excited about Assembly, because a main workflow is submission. I mean, before we get to managing policies or anything else, you have to sell that policy and you have to create a submission. And if the more efficient you get at that, it's all about numbers, right? If you can process 5 submissions a day and the guy next door can process 50 submissions a day, they could be a worse salesman, but they'll end up with a bigger book in like 12 months. So solving, like, going back full circle, you solve the business problem and then you figure out how to, include technology. And that's almost like the easy part. It's recognizing what the problem is and how to solve it on its own, and then figure out, well, how does technology play a role in it is kind of like the trick.
Kiefer, have you seen Assembly's platform? Have you received the demo of it?
A little bit. It's been poking around the last couple of weeks. Excuse me. Just because, like I was kind of joking earlier, Peter's been harassing me that our stuff should feel more like Assembly stuff. And so I've been trying to poke around and get an understanding of how you're doing it. I mean, I think, you're solving a really, when you're outside the industry, right? Like, it's an underrated problem, I think. If you're coming outside the industry going like, well, you just collect applications, right? And I know I'm oversimplifying here, but like, it's a big deal in the industry, right? And I think agents spend a lot of time forth with emails and right, like trying to figure out how to get this information forth and servicing from each other, doing it in a way where it can interact with the policyholder, with the agent, with the insurance company, right? Like all those different components. There's a lot going on there, and so I think, like I said, I think it's a great problem to solve, and a space I've been in for a long time is kind of how to simplify that submission process, and the way you guys are going about it. Would love to figure out ways to plug our APIs into what you're doing and ditch a cord completely, right? And then take it to the next level. But I think, you're onto something, and I think it's a clear, definable problem, and one with a clear solution you guys have.
Yeah, awesome.
Do we need to be like The View with a legal note that says we don't want a court to sue us? Do we need to say anything to prevent a court from suing us?
A court? No. It's a non-for-profit. Oh, you'd be surprised.
They actually, I hear a lot of complaining about a court. As a developer, I've got to say they've done something pretty incredible in how they've structured these forms, and it makes it very easy to work with them. So like, for instance, in the metadata, every field has the same name across all of the forms. Yeah. So it allows us to do cool things like, for instance, we have an Accord import tool where you can upload an Accord, extract all the information, and then import it into a new form. And we don't have to use AI or OCR at all for that. It's just the form. The PDFs are really well structured. So for all the complaints they get, and the forms could look a little nicer, but that's to our gain at Assembly.
Does their being, or the accomplishment that they had of what they did is so difficult, and that they've organized it so well, does that make it easier to come in and create an alternative?
Yeah, well, they've executed very well in a way that benefits us, and they've executed a little poorly in a way that also benefits us. So in terms of structuring the PDF so that we can programmatically populate them, it's been a huge boon for us, and it's made it a lot easier to build Assembly. And then in making their PDFs so unbelievably challenging to fill out for insurance agents, that's given us our pain point that we can solve. So I have nothing but gratitude to Accord.
With the new release, Jeremy.
Kiefer, your microphone is like shit. Yeah, you sound like something from Space Odyssey.
Darth Vader, yeah, I was going to say sabotage by AI. But the one thing I would say, great job with Accord, but it's the supplementals where you add real value. That's where people struggle, because it's almost always like manual now, 100%.
Right. Yeah, when I learned about supplementals, I wanted to shut down the whole thing and go back to retirement. And it took a lot of pondering to figure out how we were going to do that. Fortunately, the way I built Assembly is with an administrative no-code interface for converting PDF forms into web forms. So, and that was a problem that I wanted to solve from my previous company. One of the nice things about building a second company is you get to fix all the terrible mistakes that you made with the previous one. So at the previous one, we were building our forms programmatically. With Assembly, there's no code. You upload the form, you see it converted to a web form with HTML fields in all the right places, and then you just start clicking on the fields. And so, for instance, you click on the field in the Accord form or in the supplement that asks for the company name, and then you just search our database for the company name question, and you hit enter, and that's it. That field is now synced with company name. We could, and Peter, this is something you suggested a few months ago, and is probably going to be in our roadmap, point that to our users. So they could just do exactly what we're doing in terms of adding their own supplements. But it's enabled us to bring on non-technical domain experts. Like we just brought on former producer Natalie as a form specialist. No programming expertise, ton of insurance expertise, and she can just jam out supplementals. She can get out 2 or 3 a day.
So we call that mapping, and we allow our own users to map their own forms. But that's where I've recently messed around with AI. You can literally upload any fillable PDF and ask it to convert it to a smart or HTML form, and then even ask it to map it to an extent. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe that's your next. Correct me if I'm wrong, but currently users have to upload a form, and you guys spend some time mapping it before it's available. Kind of that's the standard, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So, and I think you can literally make it do it yourself. Upload the form, it will convert it. AI will and even free GPT stuff will convert it to a HTML form.
Yeah.
And then the mapping can probably be done, fairly easily. The process you describe, where a person goes into the database, company name, I find what it is. You can pre-map most of it, if not the whole thing, and you can have agents, build a library of forms in like a month of in the thousands, and you wouldn't have to do any work. Yeah.
Totally agree. That's what when I was saying we want to implement AI not only on the user-facing side but also the admin-facing side. That's sort of where my mind was going on the admin-facing side. Is it should be possible to do at least 80% of the mapping for our forms team before we even point it to our users with a AI integration.
On the new release, Jeremy, I know it's early days. You said it just a couple of days. For the deck page upload, how is that structured? What does that look like for the user? Are you sending a link for upload purposes? Is there a portal? What does that look like for the user?
So it's right in the intake. As you're working through the intake, if the forms that you've included in your intake ask about other current or previous policies, for instance, the user will see a table within Assembly to type in the information about their policies. Right below that table, if they're integrated with Momentum, there's an import from Momentum button. And next to that button, or instead of it, if they don't have an integration, there's a upload deck pages. And then the user uploads the deck pages. It takes a couple of seconds, and then they see all of the deck pages laid out. I had thought, there's all these emerging design patterns for AI because it doesn't get it, it doesn't get it right 100% of the time. So initially, we were thinking about a sort of like a suggestion workflow, where it's like, this is the information we extracted, and you can go through and accept it. But when we were testing, it got it right 100% of the time. So So
we do this a lot. We have side by side where it's like, well, this is what it looks like. This is where we think it belongs, and you can click and verify.
Right.
And it learns. That's the beauty of AI versus just OCR. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Next, we want to go to multimodal, or multimodal wouldn't be the right term, but multi-PDF extraction, where you have the AI. You can just upload all of the documents. We could even pull the documents from Momentum. We could pull the documents from users' inboxes if they wanted to add Assembly plugin to their inbox. So before they even create a submission, we've pulled in all of the documents. AI has triaged them. Maybe some of them aren't processed by AI. Like maybe if it's in a core document, we're just going through the PDF metadata. If it's a PDF, if we have to, we have AI extract the information, and then we just put it in the right places. So the goal is in the near future that before a user has even created a submission, most of that submission is already completed for them.
Yeah,
that's pretty streamlined, Jeremy. You've
so
really thought through this. Yeah.
we just literally today on one of the hackathons released something similar. And again, it's I use the word agentic because we break into small chunks. So we have a Outlook plugin, and one agent's only role is to classify emails, and then to look at with emails that have PDFs, and to try to classify, is it the deck page, is it an invoice, is it a loss run, and then pass it to the specialized agent that can, parse this specific type of document, and then, store it. And that's a whole new thing, how you store it so that AI can then use it later on. But it will put the information in the database. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That sounds amazing. And how is it working?
It's working, but everything is still at a concept. Internally, we're just playing with it. So, I mean, the sample size is we have 3 or 4 documents, and now we kind of have a big push to go to clients. We have this kind of brain trust of clients and say, hey, give us your forms, anything you have, any, deck pages, application forms, loss runs, MGA invoices, give us as many as you can. And also we want some that are PDFs, we want some that are scanned PDFs. Up until recently, I had a big problem with that, but now they have tools that, as long as it's not like something on your phone that is like sideways and with the angle bend, it will recognize, as you said yourself, 100% of the text. You'll be able to read it. So
it's really unbelievably impressive. It's fun. We were in exactly that situation the past 2 weeks. We've just been begging all of our users for deck pages and loss runs, and every day on our stand-ups, how many deck pages do we have?
We have some. We have permission, so let me know.
I'm feeling like the anxiety of knowing when I launched Insurance Gig, and even now being part of the AMS, getting sample docs, it's like breaking teeth. It's so interesting. It's like, what's that scene from Jerry Maguire? Like, help me help you. And it's amazing. But one of the interesting things that I've noticed over time, I remember starting OCR projects 4 or 5 years ago, and like we were told in order for it to have a 90% degree of accuracy, we needed 1,000 training documents. Now with AI, it's down to like, I need 3, I need 2, which is, I think a very noticeable marked difference as it pertains to AI and the impact of it.
Yeah, it's astounding.
By the way, on this topic, here's a little tip: eDocs, and we have thousands of eDocs that are test eDocs. So all the carriers send us eDocs, so they don't have any actual sensitive information. So I have a large collection of. So you know what eDocs are, right? eDocs are basically so Ivans, or carriers sent to Ivans, is one of their latest. In addition to like policy changes and direct bill statements, they send eDocs. These could be anything from underwriting memos to billing, memos. But the biggest ones are the whole policy document comes as an eDoc. It's like basically a binary PDF embedded into a small XML. And they're very popular. So an agent binds a policy, and then Traveler sends the eDoc the next day, the policy document, and we download it and upload it into the documents for the insured. But I have a whole bunch of those that are test eDocs that have Jane Doe, so I can, if you want a collection of eDocs from a variety of different carriers, we can use those for training. So
awesome. I love that. I need to, every time we finish a sprint, I blast out an email to all of our users announcing the feature with like a little demo video. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do the demo video for the deck page and loss runs, because I need PDFs with non-sensitive information. So I'm picturing myself late tonight, just like building my own deck pages with fake information.
I just email me. I'll shoot you a bunch. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
I would also imagine if you uploaded a deck page or one or two deck pages up to ChatGPT that had, you blacked out some, the PII and said, I want you to spit out, some other samples. I assume you might get some, decent
I
alternative.
saw recently AI do something similar. There was a spreadsheet though, which is a little easier, and said just scramble the name of the insurance, and it did. Boom.
Yeah,
And it
and
gave
also
you. Yeah.
I'm sure you've done this, Jeremy, but like I remember scanning deck pages 5 years ago. There's a ton of them online under images.
Yeah, deck pages are easy to find. Loss runs are a lot harder.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
How many, we talk about the 80-20 rule, but I don't think the 80-20 rule applies to supplemental forms. I don't think, you have it where 80% of the volume comes from 20% of the documents. I think it's like, you have 100 forms, you have 100 different ones. If you had to estimate, right now, how many supplementals do you need to classify or replicate to be able to have, penetration to be relevant? What do those numbers look like?
Yeah, so what I'm finding, so when I first learned about supplementals, I thought we're going to have to just add 3,000 supplementals to the site before launching. What I discovered is that agents, I don't think we've received a single objection in a sales call about the quantity of supplements. The objections we got earlier on was how long it would take us to add that particular agency's supplements. And so you're 100% right about the 80-20 rule not applying. It applies very much so in Accord forms. It's more like 97% of Accord forms are 125, 126, and 140, and the other 500 Accord forms are very rarely used. In supplements, it's almost like a supplement is only ever used by the agent that submitted it. And so having thousands of supplements actually doesn't help that much, because every agent's still going to want you to upload the supplements that they always rely on. And so we have a 4-week free trial, and when an agency subscribes, we're able to get their supplements into our bank long before that trial is up, and no one's been unhappy with that.
Do you allow
No, sorry, go ahead, Peter.
Do you allow hard-coded values? For example, no?
No, the rules
so we have
are...
this button on our course that's, like there's 3 pages of yes, no. So we don't hard code them, but there's a button that says make all of them no. So they have to click 37 times into the Accord, 126. Now, they're doing it, and if they can go back and usually 1 or 2 maybe yes, right? They're responsible for doing the yes themselves, but it's a very popular feature. Yeah.
Right. So we have default responses. I think that was actually a suggestion from you a couple months ago. I think you suggested default responses. Anyway, I built it a couple weeks ago, and we launched it in the last sprint. And users love that, because then they can just, not just for yes, no, you can just have a yes to all, no to all. But for if you're preparing the same trucker's insurance submission every day, and it's basically, in the policy information, it's always a new quote. It's, it's always the same limit. For all that stuff, our users can just set default responses, and then every new submission they create, the responses to those questions will default to whatever they set.
Right. So, for example, I've seen several different 126s, for example. So, as an agent, I may be specializing into 3 different areas, like restaurants, landscape people, and I don't know, doctor's offices or whatever, and they would have a custom 126 for that, for that particular segment, and most of the questions there with the business description, and a bunch of the other questions will default to the same answer, so they don't have to fill them out over and over again.
Yeah, so these default responses is basically a digital version of that long-standing insurance agent trick of just saving a PDF with a bunch of default responses and using it over and over again.
Cool. How are we doing on time, Michael?
Good.
I
So
just want to mention.
are you guys finding that, because we were talking about AI, are your users asking for more AI features? And when you launch them, do you brand them as AI features, or do you more focus on like the utility of the feature?
Well, it's both. It's I'll tell you, and this is just my opinion and what I liken this to. In 1996, when I had a website, and I remember like the conversation was, "Oh, we're a digital first company," right? And everybody was talking about digital first. And then after a certain period of time, like you sounded like an idiot if you said I'm digital first. Like you were so behind the times if you were saying I'm digital first. It was just you're digital. It's like, and if you're not, you're completely irrelevant. And I think that's kind of we're not there yet, but I think that's what's going to happen, where AI is permeating every single bloody thing that we do, every department, every team, every function. If it's not being run through the crucible of AI, and AI is not facilitating it and a catalyst, it's not going to stand up to anything else. And so in the short term, we are branding things as AI, and we have AI. You have to identify, like, are you talking to a human or are you talking to an AI? And within our toolbox, there's going to be a whole AI center and an agent marketplace. But at the end of the day, the AI is a delivery mechanism, and I think the functionality is the key thing. Now, can I get it through an RPA? Can I get it through an API? Can I get it through a CSR in the Philippines? Or those are just different methodologies, some better than others, but like, what's the function? So
Right.
we look at it through the lens of both. Right now, because it's so fresh, yeah, AI is a great buzzword, and we're talking about it, but at the end of the day, we're thinking about the function for agents, and we think AI is just going to be this universal application that's just going to make everything better, smarter, faster, deeper, richer, and more engaging.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It becomes so ubiquitous that it becomes redundant to name it. But I wonder, when we launched Loss Run and Death Page Extraction, is it exciting for agents to see this is an AI feature? Or to your point, maybe they don't care if it's someone in the Philippines on the back end, quickly typing the information out, or OCR or metadata analysis. They just want to see the information in the Accord so they don't have to type it.
I think it's exciting for agents to see that we can make their daily life easier.
Yeah.
So whether that's accomplished through AI or not, is perhaps not as relevant as, are we delivering value and are we simplifying the life of the agent? So I think maybe a common theme in how we're looking at AI is ease of use, and where we can make it easier to use the system in some ways. Have AI dynamically display information, and so forth. That's something that delivers value, and I think is seen as such, and it just happens to be AI.
Right.
If I could add one thing to that also, and like the conversation gets so deep and it hits so many levels. Yeah, I think one of the benefits ultimately is ease of use. But if you look at our audience of agencies, I'm making this number up, but I would say 75% of them are hearing about AI and looking at AI, and like, they don't know how to approach it. They don't know how to take that first bite. They don't know, how to start integrating it into their lives. And we want to be that Sherpa. We want to be that conduit. We want to, be the place where it's easy, digestible, accessible. So it'll make their lives easier. But, and I refer to this quote all the time. The CEO of NVIDIA said, AI is not going to replace humans, but humans that use AI will replace humans that do not use AI. And we want to be that empowering tool to the agents who adopt AI. And if you don't know how to do it, you don't know where to go, come to Momentum. We've made it accessible and digestible. And that's also one of the ways in which we're approaching it.
Yeah.
And it adds a couple of multiples to your valuation. It's the .com, and then...
Which is really my only concern at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's it. That's all.
No, but there's a placebo effect. That's probably the wrong word, but the comfort to your clients knowing that you are, actively involved in that space, so they're not left behind by the competition, is probably not to be underestimated.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So
you guys, Arsenal's playing in the Champions League right now, and throughout this whole thing,
okay, party's over. Anyway, guys, thank you. We're at the 5:30 mark, and my wife's going to kill me because I was supposed to leave at half an hour to go to a wedding. So, guys, thank you for the time. To the Momentum team, always a pleasure. Jeremy, welcome to the revolution. Welcome to Momentum. Welcome to our platform. We're really excited to have you. We like guys that look at daunting tasks and are undaunted by them. And you've already fit right in, and we're excited to be mutually beneficial to each other.
Thanks, Michael. And thank you guys for giving us the OS or the hub or the platform or whatever it is to build our solution.
Well,
thanks, guys.
The next thing that you could build for us is some type of schema to help us navigate our own nomenclature. If you figured out a chord, we're going to stump you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Good night, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, talk to you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Insurance Technology Amplified. Be sure to stay connected and up to date by following Momentum AMP on all social networks. For show notes, resources, and details on upcoming episodes, visit our podcast page at momentumamp.com/podcast. We look forward to having you join us next time. Take care and see you soon.